Rose, my wife of 27 years, mother of my 3 children, who are now all in their own marriages, cuckolded me. She has been doing this for years. In return, I sleep with her and anyone else I can get my hands on. We're bloody rich, both of us. She was a trust fund kid whose parents were so rich that Raz, short for Rose, and never worked a day in her life. She worked, but only to amuse herself, having a string of artistic business ventures under her belt, most of which died because of her indifference to whether they would survive or not. I, on the other hand, am a self-made man who made tons of money during the tech and dot-com boom, had the common sense to evolve and sell at the right time, moving on to more successful businesses, keeping the odds stacked against me in the thick of it and very rarely in the thin. When Rose first cheated on me about 20 years ago, we had a young family, and I was incredibly resentful, calling her a whore and threatening divorce, until she looked at me in utter horror and said, "For heaven's sake, Jimmy, people of our class and wealth don't worry about little things like infidelity." I was shocked to the point of asking her to explain. She treated me with the patience of an elementary school teacher mentoring a particularly slow student. Jimmy, in my family, for generations, both men and women have slept with whomever and however many they want. The only requirement is to use reasonable care. And I apologize that, in the case of my liaison with Michael, I was far from careful and embarrassed you. Oh, get that hurt expression off your face. You see me making raucous jokes when you return from business trips where you and Sophie share a bed? Me throwing toys out of the stroller when you come home in the evening smelling of Jasmine's perfume? And I know of at least 3 other instances like that, in the past and present, so stop the righteous indignation. Jimmy, you are not the soul of prudence yourself. We're both spouses of other people, so what? That's one of the perks of having great wealth. It just ruins it if anyone involved in the marriage brings up such nonsense as divorce. It's just too complicated. The thing is, I love you, I really do, but I like sleeping with others, especially Michael, and I think it will always be that way. So, 20 years went by and we lived up to what Rose said that day so long ago. It made sense, and we really have maintained a close family and a strong bond. I think we both recognize that we have been in love with a few other people over the years, but we both maintain that we still love each other deeply. And then, Michael used Rose regularly for over 20 years. Oddly enough, we became quite friendly and played golf together most days of the week. He obviously knew that I both knew and tolerated him as my wife's favorite lover. I knew that, faced with a choice, she would choose him over me. The survival of our marriage depended on maintaining the warm relationship between him and me. On that fateful day, Michael had one of his worst days on the course. As in everything else but wealth, he was clearly a better lover than I was, and certainly a much better golfer with a 1 handicap against my 9. I quickly grabbed the lead, for after 6 holes, and the rest of the round, I tried to hold off his inevitable comeback. On the 18th hole, the bastard made a 25-foot putt to beat me by 1 stroke. When he landed in the center, he slammed his fist into my side with tremendous force and yelled. He immediately assumed a regretful look and came over to me with his hand outstretched to apologize and, as is customary for golfers, thank me for playing. But what he got was not a handshake, but my fist, which smashed his nose when I hit him as hard as I could. He collapsed to the ground, blood trickling onto his white golf shirt, and he muttered, "Jimmy, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I don't know where that came from. Michael, I think we both know it came from you using my wife for 21 years and me putting up with it and not saying anything. That's it. Fuck you, Michael. You and I are no longer friends. Either she leaves you or I leave her, or you can do the decent thing and just fuck off and leave us both alone. Jimmy, I'm sorry I hurt you, but surely you know that Rose and I are more than lovers. I can't just walk away. I'm like a second husband to her. Take your pick, you bastard. But I've had enough. I'm going home to confront her. I don't like my chances, but I've had enough." As I walked away, I heard him say to my back, "Don't do it, Jimmy. It will end badly for all of us. Please think before you act." That last sentence was the only worthwhile thing he said. Before heading home, I dialed the number of my attorney, Barry Goldfarb. He answered on the second ring. "Hello, Jimmy. Business or pleasure, my friend? What can I do for you?" "Divorce advice, Barry. I need it fast. I'm about to confront my loving wife about her favorite man, and I think you know it's not me. Oh, Jimmy, can you come over to my house right now? I'll call you, and we can talk when you get there. 2 hours later, Barry's friend also came to his house, and I got all the advice I needed. Basically, we were both so rich that it made sense for us to keep our own money. The real estate we agreed on, but the main stumbling block was the house. I knew neither of us would admit defeat and give it up. That's where the battle would be. That evening, coming home later than I expected, I saw my wife scowling, sitting with a gin and tonic, waiting out the storm. I realized she had already talked to that raven-haired Michael. I could tell by the look on her face that we were in serious trouble. She had decided that offense was the best form of defense. I'm sorry for what that idiot told you, Jimmy, but please get over your ego. I'm not giving up on him. He was right in what he said. I look at him as a second husband but as a favorite lover. I'm not going to stop seeing him. I love him as much as I love you. Is that understood? You're a very bad liar, Rose. You love him more than me. It's perfectly clear to me. You expect me to swallow this insult from that bastard, thrown in my face in triumph? Once again, the better man wins. So get a divorce. Don't be so bloody stupid, Jimmy. The only people who will benefit from the divorce will be our very expensive lawyers. I won't allow a divorce. You, Rose, divorce or dump the bastard. Very simple choice. I won't tolerate such disrespect from your toy boy. I've been more than honest in my friendship with him for 20 years, and I've done it for your good, but no more. Make up your mind. Don't be a juvenile, Jimmy. What's the benefit? I'm doing what I should have done a long time ago, forcing you to choose. Leave the man you love or leave your husband. It's no secret, I know you'll choose him, but I'm making you choose. I've already contacted a lawyer. What? This only happened a couple of hours ago. You haven't even had time to think it over, and you've already gone to a lawyer. Grow up, Jimmy. Grow up. This doesn't have to be a crisis. It was just one stupid thing he said. Raz, it was what was in his heart and in his head. He said, "You cuckold, I've beaten you again, and I'm going to use your wife to celebrate." No, it's over. They elected him, and it's over with us. We'll keep our money, file an irreconcilable differences claim, but I'll tell you this. I'm keeping the house. You can settle with that bastard elsewhere. There's no way you're kicking me out of the house. I don't want a divorce. I'm not leaving our family home. If you're so inclined, Rose, we're going to war. I offered you a fair escape so you could live with your favorite lover full-time, but I'm not leaving. And I'm not letting that bastard move into my house. You got it? If I have to ruin our reputation and financial situation, I will. I will fight you for this house. And understand this. He will never set foot in it again. That's how it started. Rose thought it would all work out, that in the end it would be too much trouble for both of us. One day, she even invited that bastard over, and my friend saw his car as he drove away from our house. 2 days later, I sued her. What the hell are you doing, Jimmy? You made me get served. You slept with that bastard in my house 2 days ago. I warned you. Now I can assume you made your choice, so now I've made mine. And if you don't understand, I'm going to play as dirty as necessary to convince the judge that you just pissed on my face in my own house. I expect you to make your move inevitable. 2 days later, I was served with a divorce petition on the grounds of infidelity, spousal abuse, and threats of further violence against both my wife and her lover. You lying bitch, Rose. How could you? Spousal abuse? You trash. And infidelity? Says the woman who betrayed her husband with the same man for 21 years. You're going to be one of the most infamous women on the internet. I'm going to destroy your character. We lived together, but during the war, after she used Michael in our house, I had a security company install cameras with remote cloud storage. The guy who installed them said he couldn't find any evidence, but if he was a betting man, he'd bet there was another well-hidden network in our house. Turns out we were both trying to gather evidence. Only, she was sleeping at other people's houses and in our house. Thus began the most hated year of our lives. It became so awful that our children called a family meeting and begged us both to stop, to spare their feelings if not our own. Our mutual friends began to distance themselves. Some from one of us, some from the other. But many wanted nothing to do with either of us. As the public bloodletting continued, one of the videos of her sleeping with Michael in our house hit the internet. But there were so many layers of security between me and the final destination that there was no definitive proof of my guilt. I had my lawyer threaten the police department and ask if they had looked into the possibility that this was an attempt by Rose to frame me. There was no proof, so the case was simply hushed up. And the police always try not to threaten powerful, rich people. No criminal charges were filed against me. I even organized, through my friends, the brutal beating of Michael. Not a single word was said to him that could bind me, but he knew. A week later, Rose spat in my face. My immediate reaction was to slap her back, which I immediately regretted. But I didn't apologize. We were long past the point of no return. I tried to negotiate with Rose about the house, but it didn't work. We were ready for court. Divorce was not in question. Property division was not an issue except for the house. We kept the fortune each of us had brought into the marriage. It was up to the judge to decide on the house. The judge was a former friend of both of us, one of the people who had kept us on our toes since we started fighting. He tried to recuse himself, but was told it was his case, and he should run it. On the day of the hearing, none of our family showed up. They were equally disgusted with both of us. The relationship was strained to the breaking point. Judge Jack Thompson quickly read through everything that was agreed upon. We were minutes away from divorce. Then he moved on to the issue of the house. Mr. and Mrs. Plunger, as someone who has known you both professionally and socially for more years than I can remember, it pains me to pass judgment today. You have both contributed equally to the worst public divorce in the history of this city. Your primary goal is to hurt each other as much as possible, with no regard for family and friends. While you have agreed on how to separate your lives in many aspects, the family home is the real stumbling block, and in the absence of an agreement, I must decide how it will be handled in your divorce. I feel I cannot reward you for your pig-headed attitude toward each other. So I have decided to put the property on the open market and split the proceeds of the sale 50-50. For God's sake, Jack. She slept with him in my bed. For God's sake, Jack. I raised my children in that house. Bang, bang, bang. Judge Johnston called them to silence and said, Mr. and Mrs. Plunger, you will not address me as Jack in this court, and you will not interrupt me again, or you will be held in contempt of court and learn what a cell looks like from the inside. Did I get that right? We barely uttered a chastened, sorry, Judge. And he continued, also, none of you are allowed to bid on or buy real estate through proxies. If I find out that any of you are involved in the purchase of this real estate, you will face serious contempt charges, and I can promise you that it will result in jail time. I hope I've made myself clear. However, I am postponing the forced sale of the family home for a month to give you two knuckleheads a chance to come to your senses and come to an agreement. At the end of the month, I expect to hear from your attorneys that you have either reached an agreement or that the sale has been placed in the hands of a stipulated realtor. If that doesn't happen, you will both go back to court, and one or both of you will be held in contempt. So we got divorced. We both thought it was what we wanted, but now that it was a fact, now that all that was left to do was wait for the final judgment, I felt devastated about the whole thing. We were truly awful to each other. Our families were shaken. Friends were disappearing like snow from a ditch, and life was getting very lonely. At least Roz had Michael to keep her happy. As we were leaving the court, Roz cast a sad look at me and said, "Can we talk?" I had some sarcastic remark twirling on the tip of my tongue, but I nodded in agreement. Where? At our house, while we still have it. Okay, I'll see you there. We pulled up to the house around the same time, parked side by side, and exchanged sad looks again. We walked inside as if we were going to a funeral. Inside, Roz immediately turned to me in a way I couldn't dodge, spread her arms wide and said, "Please, Jimmy, give me one last hug. I've been such a fool, and you're no better. We've been acting like children all last year, and our kids are just about sick of us. Now Jack is insisting that neither of us live in our wonderful family home. Jimmy, I have a crazy idea. Listen to me, please, and think about what I have to say. I'm listening, Roz. On the way here, I felt exactly as you describe. What the hell are we doing, Jimmy? We both love this house. It means everything to both of us. All the good times we've spent together, raising our family, all of it. And now we're both about to be kicked out and have it sold against our wishes. I have an idea. You'll think I'm crazy, and maybe I am, but hear me out. There's not much chance of that, Roz. Jimmy, you know Michael was here, and I can see why it hurt you and made you hate me even more after what that infantile idiot said to you on the golf course. Anyway, the more I approached the living with him situation, the more I realized that other than sex, this man had nothing else. I discovered that I don't have the feelings for him that I thought I did. And more importantly, I don't have nearly the same feelings for him that I have for you, even after the horrible things we've said and done over the last year. That's where things get weird, Jimmy. I'm willing to end my relationship with Michael if you agree to go to Jack together and ask him not to issue a final decree. We can both live our lives in this house that we both adore and wanted to keep at all costs. Jimmy, I can't promise you hearts and flowers. I'll probably still feel the need to sleep with guys, and your affairs will still be happening elsewhere. But surely what we had, minus Michael, is worth it for us to know that we're good together. And with a little contact on the side, our friends will love it. You know the kids will love it. And frankly, living here with you is a better outcome than anything else we have to offer. Will you think about it, Jimmy? No, I won't think about it, Roz. I don't need to think about it. If Michael is definitely out of the equation, then I'm fine with it. I like living with you, even if we're both sleeping with other people. This long spell of Michael's drinking has just gotten to be too much for me. If you promise me he'll be gone forever, I'll agree. Hell, I might even get intimate with you to seal the deal. And they slept together. Did it all. Used each other. Talked Jack Thompson into postponing the divorce. Roz told Michael on the phone, off. You're past it. And they lived together in their house forever. Never faithful, but both happy in their own interpretation of what a happy marriage was to them. Zero expectations of fidelity. All expectations were reasonable, respect for the other's feelings. It takes different people to make the world go round.